Alright, welcome back to the second Progressive Voice Mega Show. Now, this is essentially a live show with that's much longer because videos on this channel segments are usually only 3 to 4 minutes because a lot of news stories don't have all that much to cover. But we're going to be getting straight into it here. So, to start out, we have this kind of interesting story that I saw that was kind of funny. So, Outback has they fired a waitress because she had complained that a Christian group had given her no tip on a $735 order. Now this is kind of where it gets interesting, and I want to know what you guys think, but we're going to read into this a little bit. So, it says a server at an Outback steakhouse in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida says she was fired on Thursday after posting on social media that she was not tipped for a $735 takeout order placed by Christian Fellowship. Tamlin Yoder, 25 of Lake Park, said Christ Fellowship ordered 25 steaks, 25 chickens, and 25 potatoes on Wednesday morning at the restaurant on Military Trail near North Lake Boulevard. We take the order over the phone, we put the order together, take payment, and then take order to the car. It's a lot of work just as much as serving. So basically, this is something that's interesting because it's a takeout order, so some people may say, hey, it wasn't like serving it, but what she makes is a good point. I mean, it is just as much because they have to package everything, they have to make it all, they got to package it and give it to them, and it's a $735 order. But that was just something interesting, and I would like to know what you guys think. But anyways, getting on to some really interesting political stuff here. There's actually something that's really big that we're going to talk about later on. This is also really big, but the story we're going to be talking about later is going to get really decisive and interesting. But the White House is now set to propose a $1.5 trillion infrastructure plan. So, of course, this is something that progressives are in favor of, generally speaking, as well as, I don't know so much about liberals, but definitely progressives. Basically, infrastructure spending means you take government money, take taxpayer money, and then you reinvest it into jobs. So you start building bridges and doing a bunch of other shit. Now, what that does, obviously, is it creates more jobs, stimulates the economy, or spurs the economy because more people have jobs now, more people have money to spend, and, in turn, just changes up. It stimulates everything. And so this is something that a lot of people have said that we want because for a few reasons. Of course, this is going to help the economy out a ton, right? It's going to help out the economy a ton. But also, we get an infrastructure grade of D-. So it's pretty fucking bad. But let's read into this. So this says, the White House on Monday will propose its long-awaited $1.5 trillion infrastructure package aimed at overhauling U.S. public works. The plan is structured around 4 goals to generate $1.5 trillion for an infrastructure proposal, streamline the permitting process down to 2 years, invest in rural infrastructure projects, and advance workforce training. Quote, the current system is fundamentally broken and is broken in 2 different ways, a senior administration official told reporters in a Saturday phone call. We are investing in our infrastructure, and we have a permitting process that takes so long that even when funds are adequate, it can take a decade to build critical infrastructure. The Trump administration confirmed a $200 billion direct federal investment for the package, which will be included in the White House's Monday spending blueprint for fiscal 2019. Half of the federal seed money would go toward an incentive program to match financing from state and local governments, while a quarter of the appropriations would be used for rural projects in the form of block grants to states, so governors may decide where to invest. So basically what that is saying is they're going to be giving out, some of the money that's going to be given out are block grants, which means the state can then decide how to spend that money. They essentially go, hey, here's this money for infrastructure. Do whatever in your state you feel like you want to do or you feel like you need to do. Says $20 billion is for transformative programs meant for new projects rather than a rehabilitation of old infrastructure, while another $20 billion is meant to expand the use of loans and private activity bonds, a common tool used to fund infrastructure projects. The last $10 billion would go into a capital financing fund. says the allotted $200 billion comes from cuts within the impending White House budget. An official denied a connection between specific spending reductions and the infrastructure spend, but said the administration made cuts where infrastructure funds haven't been spent efficacious. I don't know how to say that word. Providing transportation investment, generating economic recovery, Tiger grants, and transit funds as examples. So this is something that is going to be interesting because a lot of people are going to be, there are a lot of people who want to obstruct Trump and say that we need to, fight him at every step. But this is a case where, because we agree with his policy position, we want to work together with doofus Trump because we want to spur the economy. That's what we want. We don't care who does it as long as the economy is spurred and we're helping more people be employed, especially with all the jobs being sent overseas. We want more people to have jobs. We want to spur the economy because then more people will have jobs. People will have more shit to use, more bridges, more highways, freeways, whatever, all the shit that they get to use because of those jobs, creating those in the investment due to that. So this is something that I was surprised to see. I thought this was going to be something that was like essentially similar to how Trump hasn't really done shit to stop the overseas shipping of jobs. I thought that this was just kind of something that was going to appeal to workers, and he was just going to not really ever do it because he doesn't really give a fuck. He just did it as a campaign promise, which he would never come through on because, hey, it's going to help him win the presidency, the campaign. But apparently he's actually going to do it. So, again, props where they're due. Just similar to how he killed the TPP. Even though there's some kind of iffy stuff that are going on right now, still, just killing the TPP was a good move, and I'll give him credit there because that's something that I agree with. So we need to get this infrastructure plan through. The plan should not be to obstruct in any way, shape, or form, or, hey, because Trump does it, we don't want it to go through. No. We want this to go through because this is something we agree with. And I told you guys how I was kind of shocked that I saw this. I was pleasantly surprised because I was like, okay, that's really dope that we're about to get an infrastructure bill possibly through. So we'll see what we have seen. We'll see what happens here. But that's something that's really awesome. But getting into something else that's interesting here, that's gonna be something to talk about. So apparently Trump had like an interview with, I think, like an Israeli journalist or something, and he's talked about, and he may have made kind of a stunning admission here, admission that he probably didn't want to say. But he says that neither Israelis nor Palestinians are looking to make peace. Now, there's a really funny part about that statement that we're going to get into in a second. But here's what this article says. It says, U.S. President Donald Trump declined to give a timeline for releasing the U.S. plan for peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, telling an Israeli newspaper that he is not convinced that either party is committed to the process. Quote, "We are going to see what's going on," Trump told Israel Hayom in an interview released Sunday. Right now, I would say the Palestinians are not looking to make peace. They are not looking to make peace. Gee, motherfucker, I wonder why. This comes like not even that long after he just recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, when Palestinians say that East Jerusalem is what they want to be as the future capital of Palestine. So they're like, what the fuck, you fucking idiot, you're clearly not a mediator here, you're clearly someone who's just trying to get the best deal for Israel, so why the fuck would we get peace? Mahmoud Abbas was, he said, yo, we don't want the U.S. to be a mediator anymore, because clearly they're not actually a mediator, but instead just somebody who's trying to get everything for Israel that they want. So the idea, this statement to me is just laughable, because it's like, yeah, no shit, why would you think that happened? It's because you just recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. So it's like, okay, you fucking idiot, like this, I don't even think you realize it. He's like, well, they don't want peace, they just suck. It's like, no, you complete and fucking idiot. It's because you just dumped your position that you're not a mediator. You don't want peace. You want to give Israel whatever the fuck they want. That's what the truth is. And then his quote continues to go on. He says, "And I am not necessarily sure that Israel is looking to make peace," the president said. "So we are just going to have to see what happens." So first of all, the Trump admin, they had made Jared Kushner the person who was supposed to broker peace between the Palestine and Israel, the Palestinians and the Israelis, which is probably the dumbest fucking idea on the planet. The dumbest possible idea on the planet, because who is Jared Kushner? The only reason Jared Kushner's in the fucking administration is due to nepotism. It's because he's your fucking nephew. It's like, come on, would that be? No, that would not be a nephew. You know, your daughter's fucking husband. So that's the only reason why he's in your administration. Why would you send someone who has no diplomatic experience to try to garner diplomacy with a conflict that's gone on for over 100 years? Can you think of a current conflict going on that strong for over 100 years, and then be like, you know what? We should send out this dude who's my daughter's husband, who has no experience in diplomacy whatsoever. I don't even know what Jared Kushner knows about this, like the real, like, you know, I think he's Jewish, but that doesn't really mean anything, right? I mean, you can be Jewish and not know shit. But does he really know anything about it? I mean, that's the thing. That really kind of angered me, and I think that he had like a meeting with the boss, and the boss was like, dude, you're not trying to make peace. Like, that was probably the dumbest decision possible and made him look laughable. But saying that he's not necessarily sure that Israel is trying to make peace or is looking to make peace is something that I think that he mistakenly said. I don't think at this point in time any U.S. president wants to actually say that. I think that U.S. presidents, generally speaking, know that they can't say that. They're supposed to make it look like Israel is they're making peace offerings left and right, and they're open to peace. But hey, man, the Palestinians, they just won't budge. They won't do anything. They won't, come to a peace agreement or a peace deal. And so he just completely, I think, fucked up. I don't think he was supposed to say that. I don't know if even Obama said that. Obama was really weak on Israel because, people like Ben Shapiro are really quick to jump on anybody who does anything remotely to criticize Israel. Of course, call him, he called, I already went over this. I'm not even going to talk about that motherfucker right now. But anyways, so him saying this to me is a real, like, striking move. I was really shocked when I saw this because I was like, okay, I don't think U.S. presidents usually do this because they're supposed to make it look like, hey, Israel is, again, offering peace deals left and right. But they go on to say the United States' role as a broker in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process has come under fire following the Trump administration's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel in December, upending 7 decades of U.S. foreign policy. Top Palestinian officials condemned the move, saying it disqualified the U.S. from playing the role of arbiter. The United Nations voted overwhelmingly to condemn the decision. So, with the whole process, the peace process that went on or the attempts under the Bill Clinton administration, the similar reason here being as to why the Palestinians are not looking at the U.S. for being a mediator, it's the same reason why peace didn't work out at that time, was because it was unequal land swaps, and also because they looked at U.S. as more of a lawyer for Israel rather than a mediator for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So they talk about that, and as I said, of course, Mahmoud Abbas said, hey, like, the U.S. is no longer an arbiter. We should probably make the United Nations an arbiter because they're going to be more even-handed in their actions. It says, Trump was also asked about his comments at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Davos, I don't know how that's said, that Jerusalem is off the table in terms of negotiations. In his answers, he seemed to qualify his earlier remarks. So essentially what you go is, you give Israel what they want, undermining what Palestine wants, a reasonable thing. They want East Jerusalem as the future capital of their future state. And you recognize that as Israel's capital, like, yo, G, like, that's why they don't trust you. That's why they don't think the U.S. is a mediator for peace. That's why they don't believe you. That's why they're not fully complying, is because your dumbass is fucking it up. That's why, dude. And again, if you were to say, even if that wasn't the reason, this is an obvious reason, man. And this is just something that's really stupid. And he goes, I wanted to make it clear that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. As for specific boundaries, I would support what both sides agreed to. The reason he says that is because he doesn't know jack shit about boundaries whatsoever when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And he says, I think both sides will have to make hard compromises to reach a peace agreement. So it's like, you say that type of shit, but essentially you're giving the Israelis the vast majority of what they want. And the truth is, Israelis can get away with much more than the Palestinians can, because Israel already has a bunch of settlements in the West Bank. I think like 60% of the West Bank is occupied militarily. So it's pretty fucking heavy there. And then there's also another article that I seen on BBC talking about Israeli settlements. Now, this is kind of the second front here. So this headline from BBC says, Trump warns Israel that settlements complicate peace hopes. Now, it says, he also told an Israeli newspaper that he did not believe the Palestinians and possibly Israel as well were ready to make peace, as already said in the other article. He goes on and talks about some other stuff too. He says, it says, asked by Editor-in-Chief Boaz Bismuth when the U.S. would present its peace plan, Mr. Trump said, but we'll see what happens. Oh, I already said that. It says, asked whether Israeli settlements would form part of the peace plan, he said, quote, we will be talking about settlements. The settlements are something that very much complicates and always have complicated making peace. So I think Israel has to be very careful with the settlements. And then it says more than 600,000 Jews, which is 500,000, live in about 140 settlements built since Israel's 1967 occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The settlements are considered illegal under international law, though Israel disputes this, as if Israel disputing this means anything. Like, no, like, motherfucker, it's illegal under international law, so fuck off. Like, again, like I said, I think something like 60% of the West Bank is militarily occupied by Israel, which is a truly remarkable number. And there are a lot of like really crazy rules that are put on the Palestinians there. And also, there's a bunch of places where like Palestinians can't build shit. Like there's like a bunch of areas within the West Bank where they just can't build there. It's like, so people be like, oh, they're not settlements. I've had people tell me like, they're not settlements. I'm like, dude, if they control it and you can't build it there, they're in control. It doesn't fucking matter if it's a settlement or not. They have control of it. So the apologetics for Israel get really heavy in this situation. But they go on to say, in excerpts of the interview published on Friday, Mr. Trump said that recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital has been a highlight of his first year of office. I think Jerusalem was a very big point, and I think it was a very important point. The capital, having Jerusalem be your great capital, was a very important thing to a lot of people. It was a very important pledge that I made, and I fulfilled my pledge, he said. So this comment is just, again, it's just so embarrassing, man. Like, and what I was kind of trying to say earlier about the hilarity that is missed by Trump himself in his comment that, hey, Israelis don't want peace and Palestinians don't want peace either. First of all, he made it very clear that the Palestinians didn't want peace. Well, he said, Israelis don't seem to look like they want peace. Again, and it's a stunning admission of his. But what's really crazy to me is that he doesn't realize he can make this statement saying that, it was a great move to give Jerusalem, recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And in the next sentence, he's saying, not literally the next sentence, but what I'm trying to say here is that essentially he's making himself look like an idiot, because in one sentence he's saying, Jerusalem was a great move, and then the other one he's saying Palestinians don't want peace. It's like, no shit, they don't want peace. Why do you think they don't want peace, you fucking utter moron? Like, it's really obvious why they don't want peace. You're making actions that are angering them and making it unfair and make you look like you're not a mediator for peace. And then you go, oh, well, why don't you want to come to the peace table? It's like, you're not a mediator, and you're just clearly dumping your position, and it's just completely embarrassing. And they also go on to say this. You're saying Israel claims the whole of the city as its capital, but the Palestinians want East Jerusalem, occupied by Israel in the 1967 Middle East War, to be the capital of a future Palestinian state. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has said he will no longer accept the U.S. as a mediator following the controversial recognition of Jerusalem. So essentially what Trump has done is destroy, just fucking think of like just taking like a computer and just taking a hammer and just smashing that shit to pieces. That is what he has done to the diplomatic process and the peace process between the two. Before it was still bad, but now it's not even an option because the U.S. isn't even considered a mediator anymore. No one even trusts them anymore, period. So it's like, okay, you fucked more up than you could possibly imagine. I don't think that Trump even realizes what he's done, because this move right here has massive implications for now, for the future especially. But the only way I could possibly see something really peaceful coming in, you definitely cannot have Benjamin Netanyahu in office. There has to be a labor leader who is actually open to peace process, who's actually open to peace. And then you also need someone who's not a moron like Donald Trump, and you also need someone who is reasonable on the issue. So it's just this is something that's gonna go on for so long. I don't know if anyone actually thinks that this is ever going to end soon, but it sure as hell doesn't look like it. But this also says, last month the UN expressed concern at a U.S. decision to withhold more than half of a tranche of funding for an agency that supports Palestinian refugees. So there's that, and there's also the UN condemning the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, because quite clearly that's going to destroy the peace process, as it has. And now the UN is going to have to become the mediator instead of the U.S. because the Palestinians don't trust the U.S. to be a mediator for what it seems like to be great reasoning. It's just a really, really embarrassing decision. But that's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict during Donald Trump's administration, just sending Jared Kushner, just being a dumbass. And so here we have another story here. So as you guys know, Rob Porter was he was a White House staffer. He was actually the guy who gave Trump, handed to him the vast majority of the papers that he signed. So that's something that's interesting. He was also one of the people who is in John Kelly's inner circle. Now what that means is basically he fed John Kelly a lot of information. So, Trump has defended Rob Porter for no really good reason, but he also thinks that he's guilty at the same time. So it's very odd. So this is what Raw Story says. They say, President Donald Trump's staunch defense of former White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter drew widespread disgust last week. However, a new report claims that Trump is defending Porter even though he privately believes that he's guilty. Sources tell Axios' Jonathan Swan that Trump, quote, has told multiple people that he believes the accusations about Porter and finds him sick. As Swan notes, however, this completely contradicts the president's public comments on the Porter scandal. On Friday, Trump said he felt sad that Porter had to resign, while adding that he wished Porter well in any future career. The president has also pointed out that Porter has claimed to be completely innocent, just as he did when he defended accused child molester Roy Moore last year. So this is actually something funny, because I saw something like a tweet or something from Ben Shapiro where he was actually going after Trump supporters for saying this, because this just reminded me of this, because he basically he will say that they plead innocence. Essentially, they're pleading innocence, so somehow that actually makes them innocent, which is completely stupid. There was literal photographic evidence, and again, like I said when I had talked about the story, is that there was he had two ex-wives who both said, yeah, he's verbally abusive and physically abusive. So you had one with a literal black eye and just a really fucked up eye, an image of that, And then you also have both wives saying the same fucking thing. They're saying the same thing. So, to like believe his claim of innocence is just embarrassing. And Roy Moore, fuck Roy Moore. They say during a statement, the president made no mention of the multiple women who have accused Porter of beating them. Quote, "This is the strongest indicator yet that Trump will reflexively defend his male allies from any and all accusations, even when he thinks those accusations are true." So, Rob Porter is now gone because he decided to resign because it would be best for the administration, but it seems to have caused a lot of uproar, I guess you could call it, because it's something that he really said. It's just something that it was a bad look for the administration, essentially. Some other things that happened: Kellyanne Conway also said that she has no reason not to believe the accusers of Rob Porter, which is surprising because Kellyanne is kind of stupid. I think she called herself like the anti-feminist or some shit like that. I think I did a story on that like almost a year ago now. Wow, it's been a long time. Been doing this shit for a long time. So we have that. It looks like I'm trying to see if there's anything else really significant going on. It's a Sunday. Sundays, most things don't really, not too many things that happen. It looks like the New York Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against the Weinstein Company. So the situation with, Harvey Weinstein is clearly not getting any better. But I don't think that there's too much else to talk about here that I have. But seeing the Trump admin in action right now is not very good. However, one thing that is good is the infrastructure plan that we went over earlier. But it's kind of crazy. Oh, I guess something else we can talk about here is the Joe Rogan podcast. So today's the 11th, and Jimmy Dore's going on the 13th, so only 2 days away. He's going on Tuesday. So Jimmy Dore's going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast on Tuesday, and Kyle Kalinski's going to be on the 27th. So we've got a bit till then. Still got 16 days until then. But, it's going to be here eventually, time goes on. But that's going to be interesting. I want to know if you guys are going to be watching that. But here we have something interesting that's kind of like a breaking story, I guess. So I'm sure you guys know the insurance company called Aetna. So here's what this article says. It says, California's insurance commissioner has launched an investigation into Aetna after learning a former medical director for the insurer admitted under oath he never looked at patients' records when deciding whether to approve or deny care. California Insurance Commissioner Dave Jones expressed outrage after CNN showed him a transcript of the testimony and said his office is looking into how widespread the practice is within Aetna. Quote, "If the health insurer is making decisions to deny coverage without a physician actually ever reviewing medical records, that's of significant concern to me as insurance commissioner in California and potentially a violation of law." Aetna, the nation's third largest insurance provider with 23.1 million customers, told CNN it looked forward to explaining our clinical review process to the commissioner. That's hilarious. It says the California probe centers on a deposition by Dr. J. Ken Lenuma, who served as medical director for Aetna for Southern California from March 2012 to February 2015, according to the insurer. It says during the deposition, the doctor said he was following Aetna's training in which nurses reviewed records and made recommendations to him. So essentially, they denied people care without actually ever looking over their records. What is the point of this if you are just going to chop this up into pieces later? I'm not sure if I'm going to do that, but if I do, essentially people get to watch it live, and people don't get to watch the whole thing, and it's something that a lot of people do. A lot of other shows do this as well. Israel is a lunatic state. With Benjamin Netanyahu at the head, it definitely does seem to be that way. Maybe Bibi will give Jared a clearance. I don't think so. Jared is an absolute joke. Now not going to end when both sides believe in religious nonsense. That is definitely what it seems to be, or the situation. But I don't know if that's even like the biggest part of it. I feel like people, cite religion as part of the conflict a lot, but I feel like it's not really the biggest part of it. I bet they're going to get super baked. I don't know if they're gonna get banked. They'll probably baked. They'll probably be drunk, but I'm not sure if they're going to get baked or not. But if you're talking about, I don't know if you're talking about Jimmy or Kyle, but both of those would be absolutely hilarious if they got baked on the show. It'd be kind of like Alex Jones, where Alex Jones went on and smoked weed as well. I thought that was quite the funny thing, and he said he tests them to see if George Soros is putting stuff in the weed. But that shall end our second mega show. Thanks for tuning in.